Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. In the description of this video, you can find my compiled link. Through there, you can find ways to support the channel, my other social media, and more. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a first thoughts today. This first thoughts is on Urza, Chief Artificer. Very cool commander here. It's from one of the new Precons coming out. Affinity for artifact creatures, which is pretty cool. Artifact creatures you control have menace, and it pumps out construct tokens, which are the 0/0 constructs that get +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Really sweet commander here. I love this card, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to build and brew around. The categories I'm going to be talking about today are cards that fit into the construct plan. So just cards that work really well with going heavy on constructs and all the cards that make them and cards that are similar to them and just cards that would work well in that deck. Then we have good artifact creatures that have good combat based triggered abilities because of the fact that Urza gives menace, so it's harder to block them, so you can get these off easier. Then we have some generically good artifact synergy cards because that seems very important for an artifact themed deck. After that, just more additional artifact creatures that seem very good for this deck because artifact creatures specifically over just artifacts seem very powerful considering Urza gets affinity for artifact creatures, so it will never be too expensive. Plus the menace is nice. And then we have a bunch of one-off cards in the 99. So let's just jump right on into this with the construct plan. The other cards that exist in Magic that make construct tokens right now include Dig Site Engineer, Karn, Scion of Urza, Urza, Lord High Artificer, and Urza Saga. All of those seem like they could be auto-includes in this deck. They're just super synergistic and they're on theme even because a lot of them have to do with Urza, which is cool. And then we have cards that synergize well with all the tokens that you're going to be creating, and those include Junkwinder, being able to tap your opponent's stuff down, Anointed Procession, double token seems great, Aven Wind Guide for additional evasion, Curiosity Crafter for additional card draw, Ellen is pretty cool, Soundwave, new card from the Transformers cards, seems pretty great for this deck, Idol of Oblivion, additional card draw, Inspiring Leader, Intangible Virtue is a great anthem, Magnus Kalgar, Kaya for the one-off Anointed Procession, Prava for the buff, Temet is pretty good so that we can get damage in easily, and Tesa to give your tokens Vigilance and Lifelink because these things are going to be big so that can gain you tons of life all at once. Now I'm going to talk about cards that create additional artifact-based tokens. That way you can just throw in extra token creators so that you can really capitalize on all this token synergy cards. Some of those are Access Denied, great counterspell there. Biotransfervescence, this card seems really cool, new card from the Warhammer decks. Canoptic Scarab Swarm, another card from those decks. Efficient Construction, Mirrodin Besieged, which can also be a win con. Psy, Sharding Sphinx, which works really well with additional artifact creatures, and Thopter Spy Network. If you really want to go all in on the construct plan, you're going to need ways to make additional constructs. There's not a ton in Magic, and just making one per turn, not great. So ways to copy them seem phenomenal. Some of those ways include Cackling Counterpart, Cephalid Face Taker, Mechanized Production, Mirror Maid, Quasi Duplicate, Right of Replication, Clever Impersonator, Clone, Copy Artifact, Gigantoplasm, Glasspool Mimic, Imposter Mech, Mirror Image, Phantasmal Image, Phyrexian Metamorph, Sculpting Steel, Stunt Double, and Vizier of Many Faces. You can also use cards like Helm of the Host, Irenicus's Vile Duplication, both Sakashima's, and Spark Double to be able to copy Urza and get additional end-step triggers to create more tokens, which seems fantastic as well. There's a few other creatures in Magic that have the ability of the constructs where they get +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and those seem like they'd be worthwhile to include in the deck as well. Those include Bronze Guardian, Broodstar, Darksteel Juggernaut, Filigree Attendant, Master of Ethereum, which is also a Lord, which is nice, Shambling Suit, and Nettle's Cyst. Next category I'll be talking about are artifact creatures that have damage triggers or attack triggers that seem like they'd work well in this deck because of the menace ability. And those include Acquisition Octopus, which draws you cards, Blade Griff Prototype, very cool removal card here. Research Thief, this seems like an auto include in this deck. It's got flash, it's got flying, so it's also evasive. And whenever an artifact creature you control, so it includes itself, but it also includes all your Construct tokens, deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Fantastic include for this deck. And Silas Wren. Silas Wren seems like a really cool card for this deck because you're going to be playing a lot of artifacts that let you get them back from the graveyard. Now we're moving on to the artifact synergy cards. Some cards that work really well in a deck with a lot of artifacts include Rebek, Artificer's Class, Foundry Inspector, and Ethereum Sculptor. Those last three all make your artifacts cost less, along with the new Urza. That works really well in this deck too for that reason. Karn, Living Legacy. Power Stones actually work pretty well in this deck. Padim to give protection to your artifacts. There's a couple of Tezzerets that seem like they'd be worthwhile running in this deck. Oswald, very interesting card. Shimmermere, give flash to all your artifacts, which is nice. Lashiel, you're playing a lot of artifact creatures specifically. This can draw you tons of cards. Same thing with Vidalcan Archmage. Aethersworn Canonist can really screw over your opponents. Scourglass can be a one-sided board wipe a lot of the times. And Jin-Gitaxias can copy your artifact spells, which is really powerful. Moving on, we're going to talk about artifact creatures that seem like they'd be worthwhile running. Just some generically good artifact creatures just to toss into the deck to fill it out. Some of those include Baleful Strix, Esper Sentinel, great card draw there. Sharoom, Thought Monitor, more card draw. Reality Chip, letting you play cards off the top of your library, seems very powerful. Steel Overseer, so you can pump up all your artifact creatures every turn. Wormcoil Engine, and Angel of Ruins. Also, if you're going heavy in the artifact creatures, Tempered Steel can put in tons of work. Mana dorks that are artifact creatures seem very powerful for this deck because of the fact that your commander has affinity for artifact creatures. So cards like Alloy Mirror, Gold Mirror, Leaden Mirror, Silver Mirror, Palladium Mirror, and Plague Mirror all seem fantastic as ramp pieces. You can also throw in Hedron Crawler, Bronze Walrus, Mannequin, Metal Worker, fantastic card there, Ornithopter of Paradise, Opaline Unicorn, and Scuttlemutt. Now we're on to the one-off cards. The first card I want to mention is Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. This card is absolutely insane in this deck. Creature and Planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts. So if you're running a lot of artifact creatures, they're going to make your next artifact creature cost less. So especially if they're colorless, like if you have a 3-mana artifact creature and you have 3 artifacts in play, boom, it's free. You can potentially chain them together and draw through your deck with cards like Vidalcan Archmage, so that way you can just play all of your artifact creatures. War Report seems like an interesting card in this deck. It can keep your life total high, instant speed 4 mana, so it might be worthwhile if you enjoy life gain cards, or if it fits your meta better. It could be a cool include, and it could gain you a ton of life all at once at instant speed, which is really nice. Aethersworn Shield Mage is a pretty decent way to protect your board. You can either go in for an alpha attack and then flash it in after blockers are declared, or keep your creatures back and use them as blockers and flash it out when your opponents are going for an alpha attack to keep all your creatures alive, which is pretty nice. You have cards with Populate, so that way you can copy the Construct tokens and get a little upside on that, including Rootborn Defenses, Song of the World Soul, and Wake of Reflections. Also, Mycosynth Lattice seems like a fantastic include for this deck because it turns everything you have into artifacts, so your lands will be pumping up your Construct tokens, Urza will be pumping up your Construct tokens, anything you have that's not an artifact will become an artifact and make your constructs bigger. That seems like a very worthwhile include. And now we're on to the last section. The last section I want to talk about here is in the 99. Some of the commanders that I think that Urza would fit well into include Brea, Alayla, and Sharoom, all of those being artifact-based decks, along with Reaper King, because Reaper King is a tribal commander for scarecrows, the majority of which are artifact creatures. So you're playing an artifact deck there as well, but it's much more of an artifact creature deck. So Urza will give them menace, and it'll create those big tokens, which will be very big. I think it's a great card for Reaper King deck. Also, Urza will almost always just be 3 mana in that deck because all of your creatures in that deck are artifact creatures, so he's only going to be Esper to cast, which is very nice. And that is everything I have for Urza Chief Artificer. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.